Welcome back to the channel, guys. I know it's been a few days since I've made a video, but I just needed to take time away from what I was doing to focus on the event that I was trying to first place, or get first place in, because I was under pressure from another account that was in second that was causing me to have to play way more than I had figured it would take to complete that event, and because of so, I'm not doing the next one. I was going to participate in this event too, but that person there that's in second was pretty much on me towards the end of it to just keep me under pressure of having to play constantly, and to me it wasn't really worth that much free time, so I don't want to do that again. So I'm sitting it out this time. I will be still trying to complete the challenges, though, to at least get my golden egg at 1,300 points, which is not that hard to do in my opinion, especially when we made 18,000 points last season, or last challenge. Actually, I would say it's not even a season, but I figured I'd show you guys what I've been up to since I haven't made a video in a while. I'm not planning to do the feed. I'm sitting it out mainly just because I'm sure many others, not just myself, I've got tons of relics to level. I would rather spend my food on relics than I would on feeding monsters, but I do feed the cosmics as I get them. I just don't think I have 15 mil worth. But I might, so don't quote me. It's possible that I could end up feeding 15 mil because we end up feeding, not Calademic, but what is it? The taunt monster, Axel, or whatever his name is, the frat guy. We might feed him to 110. I'm guessing. Yeah, like that's all I would be. I still don't think that's enough though. That's not even close to enough food. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be feeding food. I need 10 mil to level up my Lord Pump Staff. It only needs 4 more levels. I think it's 10 mil. Yeah, 10 mil just to get those last couple of levels. But it's something I need to do because I use it in Gauntlet. But then other relics that I need to level up. I have many. I'd love to level up Morg's armor for Bomb Beta. I'd love to level up some bait gear so that I don't have to keep spending gold to move bait. Like I move this mask, I don't know how many times. I've probably move it, multiple times every day it feels like, and then I have extra of those masks. So like I could just be leveling up another one, and I think to even max one is less food than what I need for the pump staff. Yeah, see, it's just a matter of how many relics it would use. It uses 122 relics to be able to level one up. Whereas to get 180 stamina, so I need to do the math and figure out a price ratio on what is cheapest to level my relics to utilize to get the most value out of them. Like an example would be this mask is basically going to do the same thing as that gold, but how much does it cost to get it to 180? It looks like it's way cheaper to do this mask than this one costs 30 less relics, and it costs 1,000,000 less food. So I don't think I'm going to be leveling up the gold relics. I will just stick to leveling up this. The only difference is that the diamond relics cost a lot more gold to move them from monster to monster. So my idea is to try and get towards more permanent baits anyway, instead of paying to move stuff around in the first place. But yeah, so if you watched my stream earlier, we used the new PvP monster in the Gauntlet stream. One of the rewards from doing the event was that I got a bunch of extra cells to this guy. So currently he is 134, and I will be trying to get him as high as possible with the free stuff. I'm thinking we probably won't get 140 without using our own Stardust, and that we'd probably only get 137. This is not the rune setup that I normally use on him. I just use Team Speed. We also used him with regular speed to be able to beat the era, I guess, survival dungeon. I don't know what the name for the dungeon really is, but we got the era chest from it. Anyway, he's a pretty cool monster to have for the Gauntlet and certain nodes, but Honestly, he's nothing special when you already own a black feather. He's probably more special to someone who didn't have a black feather beforehand. But he is going to help me in node 40 through 50 and just keeping people locked down so that there's no chance they could alt you at all, and then it just becomes free Stardust every single day with no risk at all. So that was basically the reason for working towards getting his cells. Currently, I'm breeding I'm breeding maze coins, but race prep at the same time. And then this is Calumetic that's still hatching. I will talk about the newer monsters tomorrow. Calumetic and Pull-Out-of-Puss is what I like to call them, since we have Krampus coming and we have Pull-Out-of-Puss. And then Calumetic, I'm really beginning to question these names. But yeah, the Pull-Out-of-Puss, my first impressions on it is it's an amazing monster, but it's kind of hard to figure out a way to make it work. Um, Meaning, like, I myself, I need a defense really bad, guys. Like, that's what I want to talk about in today's video is basically like, what can I contribute from all of those attacks that you see on the left, knowledge-wise? Whereas, like, clearly, if you look on the right, my defense is just a joke. Like, the only intention for the defense, meaning I made that defense before ever even top 100ing in this game, and it wasn't like I came up with the idea. I had seen it done many times before, and I usually was taking the whole season off, meaning I didn't do PvP hardly at all for 2 weeks. And then when the season was ending, I would try to cram in and get to Legend 1 and make sure that I got my free 10. Well, I started to realize that upon doing that, everyone else is doing the same thing. So there's tons of people battling at the end of the season. And then I would only be able to do one attack before getting attacked on defense. And then I would lose more points on defense than I won on attacks. So I felt that if I made this defense team, it would take longer on average for someone to beat my defense than it took me to win against other people's defense. So in theory, I would be able to win 2 or more before losing 1, and that would cause me to go up the ranks, which was absolutely right, and it worked perfectly flawlessly up until I made it to around top 100. When you get to around top 100, it doesn't really work that way anymore because you no longer get trophies on winning as often, meaning if you just non-stop PvP, you have no idea when to control your opponent only being worth 3 trophies or your opponent being worth 20. Whereas if you sit and you wait and you don't do many attacks often, it's likely that when you attack, you're going to get somebody close to your own trophy count. And then if you do get people that are close to your own trophy count, it feels like they come in a wave, whereas if you were to lose against someone who was as close to you, anything could happen. You could go and get dumped in the small trophies, or you could keep getting hit with big ones. But it's just inconsistent to me, whereas having this on defense is really costing me more points than it's making me. Whereas I need to build a solid defense so that I can push. Currently, we've made it to as high as 4th place, and that was when we were only trying to get top 100. So, I mean, for people who wonder, like, are you going to go for first? Just know that it wasn't really my intention to go for first when I got 4th. It was like, it was at the last minute when I seen that this is really possible. All these defenses are beatable, even the ones with super runes. Like, I feel like the team that you're looking at on the left is the best team ever. It has an answer for everything, it feels like. I get a fighting chance versus at least 90% of the playing field, more than that. I think if you do the math, my win rate is like 96%. And bear with that information that it's not like I just did a bunch of easy revenges. I never did one single revenge the whole entire challenge. Not one yet this season. I have not revenged a single person the whole entire season. I just fought the matches that they gave me. So it was completely random what I fought. Well, I learned tons from that, and I learned in multiple different fields of knowledge, meaning one field of knowledge would be like monsters, meaning when you go against that many defenses, you got a really good opinion of what monsters you don't want to see and which monsters you do want to see, meaning like when I'm hitting fight and I'm waiting for my opponent to show up, and the intention is to win as fast as I can, meaning my win record would have been better had I been able to take my time and try harder to win. Whereas when you got somebody who's racing against you, you're trying to win as fast as you can, as many as you can. You're more likely to mess up, and yeah, and you're just not going to win as many. Like, I'm sure not, it's not that big of a deal, but it's definitely a big deal when you're rushing. So anyway, you do notice like there's monsters you don't want to see, where you're like, oh god, I gotta fight this again. Or if something beats you once and then you're like, man, did I misplay? What can I do to beat it? And then you fight it again and you lose. It starts to get frustrating, like when you see things, and then you also, so yeah, so that's one area, is basically monster information, meaning you pick up a lot of information on like what monsters are good and which monsters are, yeah, they look good, they sound good, but they're not really that good. And then, like, to give you an example, some people probably already knew it, but from my experience, since I hadn't been playing PvP much before halfway through last season, and then all of the season so far, up until yesterday, that is, Vampira is the queen of PvP. There's no monster, zero, that are in her ballpark of dominating at the moment. And when I say that, I mean it at the moment, meaning that can easily change. New updates come out, new team ideas, meta shifts, lots of things can change. But as is, she is the dominant factor, which is probably why everyone notices more Hardys and they notice more like Chuckles starting to now come. Whereas, like Hardy's been out longer than Chuckles, so you're going to see more higher ranked Hardys. But Chuckles is soon to start showing up. Even I myself am considering ranking my Chuckle. I've always wanted to rank my Chuckle. I just didn't want to waste Stardust because I didn't know what I was going to do with my Chuckle. I still don't really know what I'm going to do with my Chuckle. But one thing that I learned about Chuckle is the most important thing about Chuckle is that she be faster than Bombetta. And that's so that way, if somebody was to remove your Anticipate or do a bunch of dots to your Chuckle, or somehow shut down your Chuckle to where your Chuckle is, basically just in deep crap, you have a Ner going afterwards. As long as you have a Ner going afterwards, like that creates a whole different area of like, well, how are you going to answer this problem if your answer is going to be erased by the next monster that goes? So when I'm considering ranking my own Chuckle, I basically just, Chuckle doesn't have any value past rank 3, other than stats, really. Where does my logic for that come? It comes from after you've done almost 4,000 fights, and none of those times are you looking at Chuckle's level. You do not care what level Chuckle is. You don't even care what runes Chuckle's wearing. You don't care at all about any of that. The only thing you care about is that it's a Chuckle. How many cooldowns did you CDA it? How many turns has it been since you CDA'd it? Can it Ner? Things of that such is what you're asking yourself. The speed of Chuckle, as long as it, like I said, it's faster than Bombetta, it becomes a problem. The worst Chuckle teams that I've seen, or I guess from the other retrospect would be the best Chuckle teams I've seen, are all speed Vampira, 3 team speed Bombetta, 3 team speed Chuckle, to where Chuckle is faster than Bombetta. That team is the toughest one, Chuckle-wise, to deal with, in my opinion. Of course, Chuckle is not a Hardy. So you're not going to really be able to do the same things you can do with a Hardy as you can with a Chuckle, but at rank 3, Chuckle gains the Immune to Control SC, which therefore stops shenanigans like Thasla or somebody from being able to blow you out of the game. It allows you to have options. Also, people like to use turn transfer teams. Trying to turn transfer to an attacker and having Chuckle set up a shield in response, that can get pretty awkward for someone, so don't underestimate that Chuckle doesn't have value. So anyway, like, yeah, Chuckle is on my list to rank up. If I ranked my Chuckle, I would have to rank it so that it's got at least more than 8,064 speed. I don't know how high of level that is. I would hope that by rank 3 it's higher than that. So I think we're taking Chuckle to rank 3 this week. Another thing, now that I'm talking about monsters and what I had basically learned about monsters, okay? Well, there was a couple things that I feared, okay, that I never seen. In 4, 4,000 fights, there were a couple things that I feared that I never seen once, okay? One of the main things that I feared is that when I seen so many double megaton like Hardy bases, double megaton Vanos bases, double megaton Vampira bases. So basically, I had been using Vampira to purr the first Megaton, then using Tabora to purr trait disable the second Megaton, and then it would become my Lynn's turn. If they were using a Vanos or a Vampira, I would turn transfer to my Vampira to deny their Vampira or their Vanos, okay? If they were using a Hardy, instead of turn transferring, I would just use Baby since Hardy has no immunity to Baby. He doesn't even have Harden. He always gets babied. He gets cursed. And then a curse would go on, the Megatons or whatever. But then that buys you his first turn. He can't smack you. Then when your Tabora's turn comes back around, I would use the single trait disable move. And then I'm able to just do whatever I want. Turn transfer to Vampira, take 20 turns in a row. However, anyways, I started to see that the more bases that I would attack, they would be changing to where Shellys would start turning to Santas or Bombettas would start turning to Santas, which started to make me rattle because Vampire is not so good against Santas. But here's the one thing that none of those bases out of the 4,000 bases almost that I fought, not one base made Santa have more HP than Bombetta or Shelly. That's the one catch, is that when targeting a Megaton, if I use, like, say my Vampire goes first and I use Vampire's AoE, that AoE will target whichever Megaton has the most HP at the time of casting the skill. So if your Bombetta has even 10,000 HP more than your Santa, meaning even if you put some life runes on your Santa and your Bombetta is wearing team speed with team life mutants, and he's got more life than your Santa by just 10 or 20,000, it doesn't matter. That means my Vampire is purring your Bombetta, and then my Tabora is trait disabling your Santa, and I'm going to work. Whereas if somebody would have just made their Santa have more life than Bombetta or Shelly, I'd have been in for a nightmare. Why? Because I'd come in with Vampira, and that Santa would have a ton of HP. So if they're not using if they're using like Vanos or something, then sure, I could just start extra turning and try to bang out the Santa, which I'm most likely still not going to be able to do with 3 extra turns in an AoE. I'm still not going to bang out the Santa because I'm an all-speed Vampira. But assuming you charge or you don't kill the Santa, you would then have to use your Tabora to deal with the Santa, still leaving one Megaton and still leaving the Hardy there, which is the real nuisance. So yeah, I was completely surprised to not see that. Again, branching off from the monsters only, I got knowledge on players too. I think I overestimated a lot of players' play abilities. I think I do that because of how many mistakes I make as a player. Meaning I constantly, when I'm rewatching my videos, guys, or I'm looking back on a stream or something, I see how stupid I am. How many dumb things I do, how many dumb mistakes I make, how many misplays I make, how many times I say stuff that I said backwards. Like sometimes I don't even say the right words. And I'd be like, that's not what you meant. Like you said coins when you meant, tokens, or like the level of how much, like, just offness that I see when rewatching myself makes me think like, oh, you suck, Lost Jumper, you suck. But then I'm gradually starting to realize that that's just part of being human. That's not part of sucking, meaning if anyone, even the greatest players, were put under a microscope long enough, they all do dumb stuff. I'm sure of it. I would bet on it at this point. If you show me a player who doesn't make mistakes, I'll show you someone who's good at editing, because they're editing out the mistakes. I don't think there's anyone in this game that I know of yet that is going to be able to stream you, doing even the PvP season without making misplays. You're going to hear them say the F word because they made something wrong or they did something wrong. Or you may not hear them say the F word, but you're going to watch that facial expression change because we all make mistakes as humans. We're not robots. But anyway, so what I'm speaking about here is I got to learn some of the players that are adaptive players. Some of the players, basically, what I mean by adaptive players is you beat that defense 5 times and then you come in and it's harder than it was the last 5 times. Then you beat it a couple more times and you come in and it's harder than it was the past 10 times. And then you come in and it's like, oh man, you lost once to it. And you're like, what? Like, I beat that player like 9 out of 10 times. Why did I lose? You've lost because they're making changes, meaning you think you got it figured out. You come in, you're like, I'm going to do this, into this, into this, into this, and win. And you come and you do this, into this, into this, and then something different happens. And you're like, what? And it's because they changed their moves on a monster, so the AI now uses a different move instead of the move it was using that you had previously planned on, which therefore starts to get you to where it keeps you on your toes, where you cannot just repetitive. Um, which I was there was a spot where basically that's what was I was starting to do was I was starting to map teams out, meaning basically I thought if I'm trying to win faster, I should try to figure out the turn sequence, almost like trying to memorize openings in a chess game. That's not really that good. Just having knowledge of the opening, I think, is better than trying to memorize all of the openings. An example, though, of where like I learned information there would be like there's a lot of people who have switched to putting like Lindworm on their defense, whereas when I first started in the season, there was a lot less Lindworm. Uh, it seemed like Lindworm was like growing and growing and growing on defense, which is probably just a meta change because players are figuring out that like Lindworm's actually really really hard to beat on defense now that he can turn transfer when he wants to. So yeah, like one of the things that I want to share with people is if you're gonna run your Lindworm on defense, do not run the death countdown evade move. You're basically taking a team that had so much potential and giving it to players like me as a free win. Meaning if I go into a Lindworm defense team, that is already one of the biggest curveballs I can go into. One of my second biggest fear team is going against Lindworm where he's got like all strength Hardy and they're behind Mega Taunt, and I'm like, man, what am I gonna do if I try to blind Lindworm? He's gonna turn transfer to Hardy. Hardy's gonna wreck me. If I try to total blind Hardy, Lindworm's gonna baby me. He's gonna wreck me. My dudes are gonna be cursed. I'm not gonna be able to do anything to get out from behind this pressure. I'm still gonna have to deal with this Hardy that's coming. And then out of nowhere, you hit go and their Lindworm's like, I'm gonna death count down you and put up evade, and then I'm just like, all right, sweet, thanks for the free win. I'm gonna trait disable into baby, and I won. Like, like so yeah, like don't run that move, man. Like if you're on attacks and you're using it, it's probably way better. You can manipulate it to your advantage and do things with it. The AI can't. The AI will shoot that move out as long as no one pressures your Lindworm. Meaning, all I got to do is come in and purr away your Mega Taunt and then charge. And your Lindworm's going to death count down me. Why? Because you're running that move and the AI prioritizes it. Take that move off, and you know what? Your Lindworm's going to do baby every time. Like, and that's a way more pressure to be under the tic-tac-toe pressure of like, if I go this way, he's going to baby me. If I go this way, he's going to turn transfer. What do I do? Exactly. Now you have a real fight on your hands. Whereas instead of like, if I go this way, he's going to baby me. If I go this way, he's going to total blind me. And if I just charge, he's going to hit me with some death countdown. Or if I just purr the Mega Taunt, he's just going to hit me with some death countdown. So yeah, like basically the two main teams and the only two main teams out of the whole entire almost 4K attacks that I didn't want to see was uh, All Speed Vampira with Chuckle and Bombetta 6 team speed, with the Chuckle faster than the Bomb, and the other team, and the reason why I didn't want to see that is it just made Vampira almost impossible to deal with. She goes before you, she puts you under pressure. You can either nerf away the pressure or try to abuse the trait disable bug to get rid of the anticipate so that you can extra turn. But basically, no matter what you do with your Vamp, it's going to get cleansed away because there's still a Chuckle and a Bombetta to go. So yeah, like for me, that was a horrible matchup. And then the other team is the one I was just speaking about, which is where they don't have Death Countdown on their Lindworm, and they just have Baby, CDA, and maybe Purr with Curse. And then, like, I wouldn't even really push too much on that one, but I'd say Revert is your better answer, meaning the AI will only revert if you're basically total blinded and you've already used your turn transfer skills. So to me, running Revert, CDA, basically the same exact skills that I already have on my Lindworm are the best skills I think on a defensive Lindworm, and then you pair him with an all strength Hardy, and it's crucial, man. Like I can't stand that fight. It basically comes down to like a harden, meaning does the baby land on my Lindworm? Does the baby land on my Tabora? If it doesn't land on one of them, then I got a good chance at winning. But if it lands on my whole team but Vampira, and my Vampira is now cursed, I'm pretty much getting smashed out. Like it's not a good matchup at all. Not one I like to be in. Other than that, guys, I face roll everything. So let me just go over the team that I used real quick. It's the same one I've been using for about 2 weeks now, and it adapted from my previous team, which used Kodama instead of Lindworm. All right, well, now we're basically just doing the same thing we do in the Gauntlet. We're trying to trait disable into baby everything. We're trying to make as many babies as we can. That's what this team is trying to do. It is trying to make babies. So the monster that always goes first on this team is Vampira. We're running all speed runes on Vampira. Actually, let me just go to the live show. It'll be easier to show from here. All right, so the reason why we're running all speed on Vampira is because out of that season, the number one thing that beat me the most was Vampiras that go before me. If I lost, it was because Vampiras go before me, and when Vampira goes before you, you need to really slow down and you need to make a more constructive gameplay plan. And sometimes I go too fast and I mess up, and then it's like, yeah, I lost to that team. Sure, I could have beat it had I got the fight back or whatever, but I lost it. The point is, it had a fast Vampira on it who went first, and I just didn't play good enough. Maybe I'd been awake too long, whatever. Most of my losses were to super fast Vampiras. So I myself prefer to have a super fast Vampira. When using the Rune Guardian, this is the most flawless rune setup that I can think of. When I don't have a Rune Guardian and I'm being outsped by Vampiras, the easiest way to make my Vampira faster is to sacrifice the speed on Lindworm and make him go all team speed. The reason I have it set the way that I do now is because, just like in Gauntlet, how my monsters are only about 50 speed apart, it has an extra value in PvP. Considering that Tabora is only like 50 speed faster than my Lindworm, that makes it almost impossible for my enemy to have a monster going in between my Lindworm and my Tabora, which that's my combo. My combo is being able to trait disable you and then baby you. So Vampira is there to manage that combo, meaning I use Vampira to make sure that, like, she's basically like the pilot of the team that has a combo in her back pocket and she's setting you up for it. It's like, I'm going to purr away the Megatons, I'm going to blind the deniers, I'm going to pressure the team, and then I'm going to combo you out with a trait disable and a baby. Almost in the beginning of the season, I was basically hitting auto as soon as I landed baby, meaning if I trait disabled into baby you, I hit auto button. The fight was over after that, meaning basically one monster would come out of baby, and whichever monster came out of baby first, the auto would just smash out with Vampira, and then the next one, and so on, so I could just hit auto. It started to lose more towards the middle of the season doing that, so I started playing it deeper before I would hit auto, but a lot of matches I would play just to the point of dominance to where I could hit auto. So anyway, that's how I have my Vampira runed, is to be as fast as possible. Vampira is the attacker on this team. Now, when I say that Vampira is an attacker, I mean she's an attacker. I will hit multiple times with her. Most of the damage will come from her. The damage that doesn't come from her comes from dots. Alright, so with that being said, people would say, why don't you run Strength Runes on your Vampira? I'm going to tell you right now that Strength Runes on Vampira is fancy. It's wrong. It's bully abuse, basically. It's like saying, look, I can take this guy who I could have beat with speed runes, and I'm just going to make him look stupid and beat his whole team up with strength runes. That's great and all, but as soon as you put strength runes on your Vampira, you just gave me, my Vampira, all the power in the battle. Meaning, when I go and I see an enemy Vampira and I see that it has strength, I know my Vampira is going to dance circles around that Vampira, and it's over for them right away. Meaning, as soon as I see strength on a Vampira, I'm like, yep, they're screwed. Why? Because I'm going before them. Like, that's why I know they're screwed. So, and I go before them, I can put dots on their Vampira and blind their Vampira. So even if they were a human, and they were like, oh yeah, well, you total blind me, I'm not the AI, I can just extra turn it off. Okay, extra turn it off with 3 dots stacked on you, okay? Good luck. It's not happening. Strength Vampira is not where it's at. So I go over my skills. I'm running the 2 extra turn moves because just like how Nora was as the mythic, you can extra turn cycle these, meaning you can go this move, then this move, then this move again for 3 extra turns, and then you have a fourth move that you can cast, which is one of 2 moves. There's only room for 2 moves. A lot of people ask me like, how come you're not running the area, like the nightmares on the street? All right. Well, the reason why I'm not running Nightmares on the Street is because I run Nightmares on the Street to blind, bleed, and nightmare someone. If I'm going to extra turn, bleed someone, extra turn, purr something, extra turn, bleed someone, I just put bleed on 2 of the monsters on the enemy's field, or I put it on one and just hit them for extra damage. I'm then going to total blind a monster. So I've now blinded a monster, nightmares a monster, and bled 2 monsters. If my Vampire goes again before they do, I'm going to do the exact same pattern. Now I have bled everybody, blinded 2 people, and nightmares 2 people. Okay, I've almost basically done the equivalent of Nightmares on the Street, except I've traded blind for total blind. And at the sacrifice was I lost a nightmares trigger. I lost, the ability to do it in less turns. But where it comes in at is I can't afford to risk getting rid of the total blind move. The AI will guaranteed charge or do a self move every time if you total blind it. That is just too much manipulation there. Looking at an enemy monster and just being able to be like, total blind, you're done. It's like a deny. That's better than a deny because it hits immune to control. It hits everything. I have except immune to blind monsters, but none of them are good at the moment. Yeah, and when I say good, I mean good. I mean, sure, some are playable like Simus, but they're not good. All right, so this is the move where I have chose this move because of Hardy's. This is the move that I use when I see double mega taunts. I use this move because I don't want to turn on Hardy's, so I don't use this purr. I just come out and I bang with this. If there's no Hardy, like it's a Vanos double mega taunt, sure, you could use this one and then use Tabora to purr the other one. But a lot of times I still use this. I use this just so I don't mess up my turn sequence on this, because if you start with a mega taunt hitting it with this purr, so say for example you purr with this Megaton and then you next turn plan to do your Spooky into the Reaper, it won't work because you're going to cast Spooky and then the Reaper's not going to be off cooldown yet because it's 3-turn cooldown, not 2. So if I started with this purr, when I then get to my second turn on Vampira, I can do my 3-turn cycle. So that's another thing there to be noted. Now, outside of double Megaton, where did it come in extremely handy? It came in extremely handy versus immune to control status effects behind taunt. Like if Chuckle's behind taunt, or if Ignis is behind taunt, being able to get that immune to control off, because if you remember what I said, I'm trying to baby. A lot of times, you can't get your Tabora to go a certain way. Maybe you got CD8 or something. You don't, and they got a taunt monster now. You really don't want, since Tabora cannot miss with trait disable, she can miss with the purr. So if they total blind my Tabora and my Tabora tries to AoE trait disable purr them so that I can go into baby, all their traits are gone and it's going to be my Lindworm's turn. If they had an Ignis, he's still got immune to control. If they had a Solar Flare, he's still got immune to control. Like they have if they had a Chuckle, they still have immune to control. So now when it goes into my Lindworm's turn, he can't baby them because of that immune to control positive effect. Whereas if I know that I just got Vampira'd, you just blinded my whole team, and I know that my trick, or you total blinded my Tabora, your Vampira went first and it total blinded my Tabora, and I still want to do the trait disable in the baby combo, and I'm going to abuse the fact that you can't miss with the trait disable, all I need is this move, because I set up by going AoE purr, now there's none of those immune to control effects, then I trait disable while total blinded with Tabora, and now when my Lindworm goes, there's nothing stopping everyone from getting babied. And then I can win the fight from there. So this move has come in super clutch. Now where does it not come in clutch? When's the only time ever that I wish I had the AoE Nightmares on the Street? When I go against random double taunt bases. Like taunt Chuckle, taunt Hardy. That's the only time I ever wish I had it. Those are it. Like, that's the only time where I'm like, man, I can't get to that monster because I already spent my my moves, and the only thing left I got is extra turns, and that's just going to turn on the anticipation monsters. So like I can't trait disable the taunts because then if I extra turn, they're going to come back on when they nerf. Yeah, so that's how I have her set up. In the relic department, I think it's a given everyone should run Beast Banner or Charging Banner. You want stamina for days. The trap could basically be anything. Pestilence Trap stops defenses like the one that I have. But I like the fact that most of the damage being done in PvP at the moment is like in nickels. It's like nickels to $1, meaning you're getting chipped away. Like it's basically an obvious person that's KOing you. If they're KOing you, it's like Diagonal or it's Vanos or it's Hardy. The rest are chipping you away, man. The Lindworms, the Wolves, all those things, they're chipping. They're taking chunks out of your life, so that trap's going to come active a ton. Moving on to the next monster, we have Tobora. So moving on to Tobora, the way that I have her set up is basically I wanted her to get away with as much team speed as possible, but the reason why I run 1 speed on both her and Lindworm is because I'm trying to actually stay faster than Hardy's, guys. I'm trying to stay faster than the monster that's paired with, 6 team speeds as often as I can, or 5 team speeds. A lot of people only run like, 5 or 4 team speeds because they want to run, 2 team speed, 1 life on their taunts and stuff. I want to get ahead of as many monsters as I can with Vampira. Originally, the way I would run the team would be all team speed Lindworm and all team speed Tobora, but then there's just too many monsters that can get in between Vampira and my combo, so I try to keep Vampira as close to my combo as possible without reducing Vampira's speed. So that's basically why this setup is that way. And then since Tobora has to be faster than Lindworm in the Gauntlet for the combo to work, it's the same way in PvP. Tobora has to be faster than Lindworm for the combo to work. I've seen many people using this team on defense now, where they're basically like, they have different rune setups, like they have all kinds of different stuff going on, but same principle, 3 different monsters, or I mean same principle, 3 different setups on the monsters, but they're using Vampira, Lindworm, Tobora, and if you naturally just have all 10s on your monsters, which most of those spenders who I've seen put this on defense do, your Lindworm is not going to be slower than your Tobora, so yeah, it's going to become an awkward situation when your Lindworm's going first, but it also creates its own problems in and of itself, meaning there's many different ways you can run this team. There's many different movesets you could have on all 3 different monsters. That's kind of what's cool about the game, is that you can build your monsters certain ways or whatever. So moving into her skills, I do not run the same skills that I run in other places in the game when I use her. Like if I use her in the Gauntlet, I change my skills. But currently I am using the 2 skills that never change, which is the AoE trait disable per and then the Ner. Those are her 2 main skills. And then specifically for PvP, I use these other 2 skills. Whereas most people would use like Amber Dust and the AoE Curse. I use the single trait disable skill for most of the time. There's a lot of times where I'm going to be babying Hardy without removing his anticipation because this was spent on a Megataunt monster, for example. So if this was spent on a Megataunt monster, that means Hardy still has his trait, and then when it comes to my next turn and I need to answer Hardy, I can't remove his trait if this is the only trait disable I'm running. So I'm using this mainly for trait disable. The Curse and the Quicksands is a pressure bonus, meaning honestly, if it didn't even do Curse or Quicksands, I'd still be running this move. We're getting our Curse from Lindworm's baby. We don't need Curse, but we do need an extra trait disable, meaning that's the seller on this. The same with the Quicksands. Quicksands is not as relevant. It's just a bonus. The main point here is having a second trait disable for dealing with a second problem, whether that problem be Taunt, that problem be Anticipate, that problem be a Mega Taunt like Santa. No matter what the problem is, that's why I have a second one. Now this is how I apply damage with my Tobora, so that my Tobora doesn't find itself useless in some situations where it's like, okay, you purred, okay, you trait disabled, now what do you do? You would say you can AoE Amber Dust, but there's so many people running like Vampira Kodama, Tobora Kodama, There's times where Kodamas are set up so that they go first, meaning like they have all team speed on Tabora, all team speed on Bombetta, and then they got this super 30k speed, Kodama smacking you in the face. And since you're not running a Mega Taunt, you're going to get hit with it. Yeah, so having the ability to function after you've been CDA'd is pretty important to me. It comes in pretty clutch versus, monsters like Henrich, monsters versus Simus, versus like Erder, monsters like, what's his name? The the rat or whatever, Iguanazar. Yeah, so it's really good. It hits pretty hard for being, on a all-speed monster. Then when it comes to her relics, the Uriel Essence, I guess it's arguable if you didn't have mutated stamina, but since we have a mutated stamina rune, I don't really have the issue of needing stamina that bad, which brings me to the mask, whereas the mask was an open slot, basically, meaning the mask could be nothing. So the fact that it could be nothing makes me have to decide what should it be that helps my team the most. I think I see everyone else who tries this team or tries a situation similar, they all go with, the armor boosting, stamina draining mask. To me, that doesn't help me win anymore. That just helps me not lose. This allows me to actually fight back. This allows me to, hey, my Tabora was all the way out of stamina and your AoE hit me and now I'm back in the fight. Or you tried to AoE drain me and I just got plus 90. Like, all of my moves on Tabora cost less than 90. There's this one right here, the most expensive move on her. And since it costs 90, her relic being 90 is perfect. That means that I can still trait disable, meaning the only way that I'm not trait disabling is if you hit me and you also left a stamina draining dot on me. So like if you hit me and drained all my stamina to 0, but also cursed me, or you hit me and drained me all the way to 0 and nightmares me, or you hit me and drained me all the way to 0 and you drown me, it's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to AoE trait disable, but I still will be able to single trait disable. So that's what's going on there on why I'm using that mask. It does serve a purpose. Stamina gaining allows me to do my duty in the game, which is, cast my moves, set my combo up, all those things, be able to swing. Having to charge is something that I only want to do because I created a window to do it, or I'm all out of gas. Those are the only two reasons I want to charge. I don't want to charge because I chose to wear a stamina draining relic. I don't care if my opponent had to charge 100,000 times. I'm not planning to win because of stamina draining my opponent. That's a bonus, meaning if I win because my opponent had to charge because he hit me and he was out of stamina, that would be a bonus to me. Whereas if I lose because I was out of stamina and I could have had 90, that doesn't fly with me. I don't know if that makes sense to all of you guys, but that doesn't fly to me. I do understand that gaining the armor is extremely helpful when people are chipping away your life, though. So I can't knock you guys that are running the diamond, but that's the whole point of why I have a Uriel Essence, is in case you kill me, I can come back to life. I mean, if I'm gaining armor, what was the point in having the Uriel Essence? Like, I feel like if I was going to gain armor, I'd rather run Ixon's Essence so that I don't know how to explain it. I want to be able to make my moves when it's my turn. That's the easiest way that I can explain it. Then moving on to the last monster, his runes are set up so that he can provide Vampira as much speed as possible and just be a hair slower. He's like less than 50 speed slower than Tabora. And then the reason for the mutated stamina runes on all of them is to get away from stamina drain. Meaning if someone like Kodama hits you and he drains your stamina, at least you're not out now. He's only draining a little more than half your stamina, still providing you with enough stamina left to be able to fight back, assuming that you're not trait disabled. When you see something like Kodama, the thing that beats you is them comboing you out with trait disable in the stamina drain. If they don't trait disable you, you got that 0 cooldown move on Tabora that I showed you that you can punch with, and then you've got Lindworm's moves. He's already immune to cooldown immunities, so if he gets trait disabled and he loses that, he becomes extremely vulnerable. Enemy Taboras are basically your threat. You want to total blind them more than you do even Kodama with this team. Like, I can care less if I get CDA'd. What I don't want is to get trait disabled and then CDA'd. My biggest fear is that. The reason why it's that is because if my Lindworm gets CDA'd, he's pretty much garbage for 2 whole turns. All of his, you know, CDs are at least 2, so he can't do anything for 2 solid full turns. That's too long. So yeah, assuming that your whole team gets CDA, though, the only one that's really vulnerable that won't be able to do anything is Vampira, and that's only for the first turn. Meaning, if your Vampira got CDA'd and then she goes and has to charge, and then your Lindworm's going to go, you wouldn't revert her because she's already reverted. Meaning, if she gets her turn back, she can turn cycle out of that CDA. Whereas, if you got CDA'd and your Vampira already went, so your Vampira will go again when it's her turn, you know that she's going to have to charge because she got CDA'd. Instead, you can revert her and she can go back to work, or you could revert your Tobora and get back to doing what you need to do to set your puzzle up. So the revert move basically shuts down, the revert with mutated stamina shuts down all the CDA move teams basically. Doesn't matter what they're up to, able to find a way around it. The turn transfer comes in super handy. When you use it on Vampira, you gain stamina because of Vampira's attuned. But there are a few times where you will turn transfer to Tobora because you need a trait disable, or you need a last hit because your Vampira is dead. Like, that's about the only time you'll transfer to her. But like I said, the whole point is to basically use this deny move. When it came to building the team, used to use Kodama. But Lindworm's a faster denier than Kodama. The real idea here was to deny, and then that deny turned into a comboing of basically like, hey, I have a combo. Just like if you were using Kodama, you had the combo of trait disable into CDA. Well, using Lindworm, you have the combo of trait disable into baby. And both of those combos are effective without the other piece, meaning if you don't get your trait disable off. Say you're only going to be able to baby, or you're only going to be able to CDA. CDA is better because it can go around hardens. Baby is better because you can't cast any moves at all if you're in baby, not even your lowest form of CD move. So like, him babying people is pretty much what got him here. That's his deny move. If it lands on you, you're denied for a whole turn. Same thing as if I froze you. Same thing as I stunned you. The only difference is you got cursed. So it puts you under a turn clock pressure as well. Curse gets worse over time, and then the CDA move comes in so clutch, so many fights. I can't even tell you how many Bombettas I've landed this on, how many Rottens I've landed this on, how many Chuckles I've landed this on, and just stolen fights, meaning this is what it takes sometimes, or how many Witch Cats, man, meaning like, how many of that Nagarok guy, where basically like, if I'm gonna set up all this deny with my Vampira, the last thing I want is you to be able to cleanse off all those dots and total blind. So if I CDA your Ner, you're basically done. Like, most of the teams, that's what this gets landed on, is their Ner monster. Meaning any monster on their team that can Ner, I'm like, oh, he's got to go. Why? Because I'm setting up trait disables, I'm setting up dots, I'm setting up all this stuff that can get erased by a Ner. The last thing I want is that to happen, so I will CDA that guy. And that's basically came in clutch. That's how I've got his moves set up. Now his relics, I'm still working on getting my Pump Seed Staff max, so it'll be even more effective, but he has the Uriel Essence, and I would not recommend any other Essence relic for the role of him. Basically, him dying with a Uriel Essence, that creates a super problem for the enemy, meaning if the enemy AI kills my Lindworm and they don't have a direct like re-kill, like you kill him again, I could come back and win a fight I had no business winning. Why? Because I could take a chance on baby and it lands on Harden, and I'm right back in the fight. The curse that followed by CDA, the monster that can get out of it's done deal. So that is basically the team. I will do a PvP real quick for my maze coin so that you can get an idea. I will do a whole video devoted on the PvP team or the PvP aspect. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew what I did to do that huge event, how we got such a high win rate, and then basically I wanted to share with you the things that I had learned. Another thing that I guess I haven't told you about that I've learned is we could go through here real quick. Let's find the mythics, and I'll go over the ones that I've learned a few things about that I wasn't aware of beforehand. Right away, I would note that tons of people are using Miseris compared to what I thought would use Miseris. I've seen a ton and a ton of Miserises on defense. My reasoning for that is, I guess they have anticipation. All I do is punch through them, guys. Meaning, I will extra turn, purr away Megataunt, let their Miseris go. I don't even care. Then I just take my other turns and then trade disable baby. So yeah, I thought that I note that because if you haven't noticed, we got a new anticipation SC monster coming, which is Platypus, which I call Platypus. So I think that just the sign that Miseris is being used on defense is a sign that, dude, you better expect Platypus to be a curveball coming your way on defense. He will be around, I promise. I'll bet anything on it. Other than him, not as many Erders as I would have expected. Other monsters duly worth noting. People are still using Brutes and Odanas, but nothing to note there that isn't already known. And Day is a hugely used Megataunt. Nothing to really note there. Day is actually weak to Dark, so you can do a lot of damage to him. But pretty much none of the Megataunts matter except Bombetta. Bombetta is the only Megataunt that does anything outside of Megataunt that matters in PvP. When it comes to a Shelly or a Day, or a Santa, they're nothing. They're basically like, once you get their trait or their purred out, once you got the Megataunt down, you can ignore them till the end of the fight and finish them last. Bombetta still has the ability to nerf his team. That is extremely crucial, okay? Like I was talking about with going over Lindworm, we have to CDA that a lot. The first monster that was a huge shock to me is Lonrad. I know that Lonrad's a good monster. I just didn't realize how many people were using him and how annoying he could get. Being that I don't run the AoE move, it is hard to deal damage to a Lonrad that has taunt. So when you're looking at like Lonrad, Solar Flare, Vampira, it starts to get really awkward if that Vampira is faster than you and you're basically like having to rely on a bug trait disable to trait disable so that you can then baby. Like, yeah, it gets to be pretty sticky. The only thing that I would note about him that, like I said, well, we just kind of noted it, was that we can beat him with the trait disabled trick. He doesn't have any harden or anything to stop babies, so that's the real thing, is that your baby would be blinded, so you have to spend your turn not trait disabling and nerring away your accuracy debuffs so that you can land baby. That all works versus Lonrad, but still, definitely worth noting that he is, he's all over in PvP. Hardy's all over in PvP. Bombetta's the best tank out of them all in PvP. I understand that Shelly can wear Uriel Essence. I don't give a care. Shelly is not anything but Megataunt, man. Once the Megataunt is down, who cares about Shelly? Now, when does Shelly become a problem? If you are down to only one monster, that's when it's a problem. If you control the fight, Shelly doesn't do anything. If you're going to run Shelly on defense, I highly recommend you do not run that whatever move gives positive effects protect. It's too easy to manipulate the game, and it doesn't do anything, man. Shelly, you Megaton it away. What would make Shelly super, super good is if it recasted Megaton, meaning if when it's Shelly's turn, Shelly recasts Megaton, that's a scary Shelly. If it's Shelly's turn and all Shelly does is heal and put up some positive effects protect, that's like getting a phone call from somebody you didn't feel like answering, so you didn't. And now you just have a blinking light on your phone that says like, oh, I got a missed message. I didn't see, I say Ignis and Blackfeather and Rotten, they're all in PvP and they're being utilized. Ignis can throw you some curveballs. Blackfeather, on the other hand, is basically just, same boat as Witch Cat, meaning Lindworm is better for the denying role in my. So I'm able to just like total blind them or CDA Witch Cat, meaning if I'm looking at like Witch Cat Vampira, I usually total blind Vampira CDA Witch Cat. That denies them both. If I'm looking at Blackfeather Vampira, I usually have to pick one. Meaning, am I going to total blind Blackfeather or am I going to total blind Vampira? Usually I total blind Vampira because Blackfeather can only possess me at worst, and Lindworm's immune to possession and Vampira's immune to possession, which means worst case at all is he's going to possess Tabora, and Tabora is going to either nerf their team or trait disable my team. That's the worst thing that can happen. So, yeah, like Rotten is another one where in the beginning he was a tough problem until I started CDAing him, and then it was over. Diagonal is still a tricky situation because a lot of times if you try to blind him, he can extra turn Villain Hater and then smack you, whereas most of the time, though, the AI will just put up evade. The idea that I found with Diagonal is whenever I go against him to just focus on him, get him dead, let him revive, and then kill him again. Ignore everyone else until that is accomplished, and then you're good. Solar Flare, I'm always jealous I don't have one. Henrich, in the beginning was a problem because he's so annoying, but then I realized that he doesn't do any damage. That's his downfall. Saving for last, don't give up your trait. Anytime you're fighting against Henrich, your most important thing is your traits. Don't give them up. Let him CDA your guys. You got reverts. You got 0 cooldowns. Let him freeze your guys. You got nerves. You got, the ability to wait a turn. You got immune to control on Vampira. He can't really... He's not a problem. Deal with his buddies. Meaning if he's paired up with Tabora, don't you dare let her get a trait disable off on you. You focus everything on Tabora if you see Henrich paired with Tabora. That's the only way Henrich is going to beat you is once your traits come off. I didn't see any of those other monsters. Chuckle is definitely top shelf monster. I don't know how much now that Platypus is coming. I feel like Platypus and Chuckle are kind of like fighting over the same area turf. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Then the water monster is a straight up welfare Vanos. It's nothing, man. They're going to get better now that Platypus is coming, but honestly, she's worse than Vanos because she doesn't have Harden, and Harden is like a curveball. She's immune to nightmares, which is cool, and immune to freeze, which is cool. But yeah, not having Harden is just such a huge disadvantage. And then the free to play, or the monster that's coming, Platypus, is also Thunder, so that's not in her best interest when you would think she's a counter to be able to smash it out. But Rhino was a huge learning experience for me. I never understood how hard it was to kill a 150 Rhino. Like, that can be pretty annoying. Aerobat is a complete pushover. He's lucky if he can take a full set of hits. Vampira is everywhere. Witchcat is everywhere, but you can CDA Witchcat. And then the next one that was a huge underdog to me was Oros. I think since I used him so long in the air duels, I never actually paid attention to his traits when he's ranked. Dude, he's got some pretty crazy abilities when he's ranked. Abomination is super good versus the Vampira meta at the moment, and him having taunt, it just, oh my gosh, if you can't get that taunt off of him, or you do get it off of him, it's just a lot of focus goes on him, put it that way. You would think that Dark is good versus Earth, so he shouldn't be a problem. The only problem with that is both of Vampira's extra turn moves are not Dark moves, so she doesn't get an elemental boost from doing the extra turns. She only gets one when she trait disables them. The next monster that I would definitely, and probably the last one that I would give note on, is the Katsuko. Like earlier I told you guys, the one thing that in 4,000 fights I couldn't believe that nobody had done was put the life runes on Santa so that Santa was higher life than the other Megatons, causing you to not be able to Vampire it away, is Strength Katsuko. I did not see. The closest and the most aggravating Katsuko that I had ran into was someone in the top teams had an all super mutant life with strength mutated onto it, Katsuko, which that Katsuko hit just a hair below almost too uncomfortable, meaning it could almost one-shot my Vampira, and it didn't even have any strength runes on. Like, I didn't like that at all. If an enemy was to run an all-strength Katsuko and just turn transfer to it, I think that would blow me out. I didn't see it at all, though, in the 4,000 fights, so I expect to see it in the future. I completely overlooked it. I understand that Taunt Hater is not a good move in my mind, but it serves a purpose on defense that you wouldn't figure. That is, if you're going against a Lindworm Katsuko turn transfer plan or a Lupo turn transfer plan, usually you would total blind the thing you don't want them to turn transfer to. So I'm basically like, oh, I can total blind, well, I mean with Lindworm. I could total blind, say, Hardy, and then if he turn transfers to Hardy, Hardy's blind. Okay, well, if you total blind Katsuko, and he turn transfers to Katsuko, Katsuko, if it's total blind, will automatically cast Taunt Hater on itself. Like, it's not charging. It's not charging while it's total blind if it has the or the Taunt Hater move on. It will Taunt Hater, goodbye total blind, let me punch your lights out. So thank goodness no one in the meta has caught up to that and is running that. So yeah, I look to see that in the future though. Other than that, that's basically everything that I've learned monster-wise. Monster-wise, that's everything that I learned. I still figure this team's going to be good in the meta for a while. I think it might even serve better on defense. I'm not going to lie, I lost a few times to the same team on defense, and it mainly just comes down to Lindworm, man. Lindworm is what makes it hard to beat. You don't know, is he going to baby? Is he going to turn transfer? It's hard to beat the AI when you don't know what it's going to do. It's way easy to beat the AI when you do know what it's going to do. And I guess the same could be said about humans. Like, if you know what they're going to do, they're easier to beat than you do if you don't know what they're going to do. So that's what's going on there. I've seen Dreamers and stuff on defense, but, you know, most of it did not matter. The Wolf Pack I have seen and I have lost to, but most of the time Monster Masher is not a problem for me to beat. He's really weak to CDA. All you got to do is purr away that CDA immunity and then CDA him, and he's pretty much a wrap. And one of his biggest downfalls is when he runs out of stamina, he keeps recasting the same 0 stamina moves like all the other monsters do when they're out of stamina, which causes them basically like to brick wall, meaning like, oh, they're all out of gas, meaning if he can't win at that point, he's not going to win continuing to do the same move over and over. So like the teams that I had lost to were Lupo with Monster Masher, and then like Hardy or Vampira or Chuckle or some random third monster in there where they, you know, I think I even lost to one that had the PvP monster with the 2 wolves. And I don't know why, but sometimes you lose to random stuff. But yeah, so that's basically what I pulled from the event. I will be streaming in the next couple of days, and I will be back to making videos. I don't plan to do this PvP event or whatever, so I'll have plenty of time to make videos. To end the video, I'll go ahead and show you the team in action. I know a bunch have seen it already, but yeah, so like when I see a team like this, the worst teams that I want to fight out of all of them are the ones that have 3 team speed on Bomb, 3 team speed on Tabora, and then 3 speed on Kodama, to where Kodama goes first. But they're still beatable. Like, they're like, or if they have another one that was really bad is like where they have a tank that's a taunt instead of a mega taunt because of my setup, how that I don't have any area moves. Meaning like earlier in stream when I was using the team to get my maze coins, someone had, you know, I think it was Solar Flare with all team speed instead of on beta. But the real trick here is like, you know, people don't put mutant stamina on their Kodamas, and then Kodama just exhausts himself on stamina real quick, and then that's it for him. So mutated stamina is the most important thing on Kodama in PvP. I don't think if you're on attacks, I guess you want the life so that you don't die to opposing Hardy's 0 cooldown smacking you, but if you only have 260 stamina, you're not doing a whole lot with Kodama. You're going to run out of gas by turn 3. So anyway, I just purr the bomb beta. And then the only thing I don't want to have happen here is to get trait disabled. So I'm going to need to cycle my turns. I'm going to go ahead and put it there. Now that I've cycled my turn, I'm going to trait this or total blind there so that, yeah, we can go straight into our combo. And then this is usually where I would hit the auto button and auto them out. But I've been playing them out because for whatever reason the AI seems to want to lose, you know, once in a blue moon to I don't even know how. Like I give it a match where I don't even know how it could lose and it still does. But once I'm down to those 2, I don't think there's any chance they could win, so I hit auto. And if I don't get attacked again, I will do one more fight. I would normally do revenges to show you guys, but I'm going to keep it where I haven't done any revenges this season. I might do them at the very end if we try to push for a top finish, but I feel like 4th place is a pretty impressive finish for me for a while, meaning like I don't really have anything to prove by pushing PvP. The only reason to push PvP would be to beat 4th place. Here we go. This is a better team. This guy had a better team than this, I believe, during most of last season, but alright, so as is, I think we just take a hit. It's only 2 strength, right? Yeah, so as is, we're going to take a hit from Hardy. I don't think he's going to be able to kill anything, but you never know. That's why I wear the mutant runes. And then we can just trade disable into baby. I mean, I guess this is an interesting... He's got his team set up better this way for people that don't have mutated life runes and don't have 150s. That would be a much harder problem. But I like this guy's team better when he had Vampira and Hardy spot. I feel like it was harder to beat. This is the one where he had like the yeah. This guy's team was super hard to beat when he had Vampira in Hardy's spot. But this seems to be a whole different story. We'll just bang out old Chuckle. She'll be dead from dots. Can smack him, CDA him, and then total blind the Hardy and hit auto. And that's pretty much, that's what's going on with the team. I mean, there's different ways to beat, all the teams, but I'd have to make a separate video where we would just do PvP and talk about what's going on in PvP. I need to get back to the basics of like what we're doing on my account, like how we're saving for the El Colossal. We're trying to get some Avas. We are trying to get the gold farm going. I have like almost 500 million gold. I'm saving it all for race. When race comes, I'm going to grow food, and then I'm going to use that food to level up my relics. So that's here. I just want to total blind Vanos since he's the only one in between my combo, and then we just combo him out. It's that simple, man. So like I was saying, I want to grow some food and get the relics leveled so that I can use them in Gauntlet, but I do have 9,000 Stardust and 10,000 Amber. So in the next couple of days on this channel, tomorrow we'll be doing a video on Platypus. I think in the next couple of days on this channel, we're going to be deciding who it is and what it is we're ranking. Here I'm going to CDA their Nur. Like I told you guys, I don't want to undo all of my hard work with this Vampira, whereas we just total blinded everybody else. So the last thing I want is that guy to Nur it all away. And that's basically the easiest way for me to explain how we beat everything. Is basically I did it while we were looking at the team layout. I explained why we had everything the way we had it. The rest would just be to explain certain situations, like when you need to punch through a Chuckle and when you don't need to punch through a Chuckle, when you need to use the trait disable bug and when you don't use the trait disable bug, when you need to Nur, when you need a baby without trait disable, stuff like that. So without those official, like, actual fights showing up, it'll be near impossible. Plus, I've already talked for like an hour. This is going to be a long video. But then again, those of you who've been waiting on a video, you're probably not too concerned with how long it takes. Here, I can't get around the taunt no matter what I want to do. So it's going to be an awkward fight. But it's not if you can go straight into your combo. Assuming that I had a Kodama going in between me, that could have been a different story. But the way it is currently, we get basically a free win just because of the speeds. I'm just going to hit her and then turn transfer back over here and bang this one out too. Then we can hit auto. Everybody's dead as far as I know. Yeah, so anyway, that's what's going on during that whole event last week that you guys missed out on content. So now that you've seen this video, you know what you missed, what you would have seen. I didn't even stream for the last 2 days, so I completely took a full break. And that's where I'm at. I am doing the maze for Platypus. I'm one move away, 4-hour collection away. As soon as we collect one more time, I'll have him. I'm going to level him up all the way. And I'm definitely thinking about ranking him. Him and Chuckle both, I think rank 3 is the sweet spot for them. Whereas after rank 3, I don't know about. I think that's more of like, I have to do some more research before I decide to go farther than that. As long as both of them are faster than Bombetta at rank 3, I think everything is good. I have even thought about ranking Bombetta, since he's actually, like, after all that PvP, I think he's the best Megaton in PvP besides Santa. So yeah, I think, you know, it could be worth ranking Bombetta to 150 and then finding out where his speed's at 150, and then making Chuckle and Platypus whatever rank they need to be faster than that speed, and then calling that all solved. After seeing this guy, I have definitely thought about ranking him, and I have even, believe it or not, thought about ranking the cat. Katsuko has definitely crossed my mind about going on my defense with some 10s and a turn transfer. I think it would probably be Lupo and this guy, and then like Bombetta. I'm not sure though. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thanks to everyone who's been watching my channel. Thanks to everyone who was waiting for a video. I will do better tomorrow to try and cover anything that I forgot to cover in today's video. It's hard to come back after 2 days of not doing anything and explain all the important stuff at once without having it written down on a piece of paper first. So I did the best that I could to basically... I just wanted to share with you guys what I had learned from all of those attacks. People basically try and say, you know, oh, it wasn't worth it. All you get is an egg. All you get is this. What I got was knowledge, guys. Like, you really gotta... You can't... Practice does not make perfect. Meaning, I don't consider that 3,697 practice fights. I consider that 3,697... research like experiments, meaning whereas every fight I'm curious, what didn't I know and what do I know afterwards. Like, I know now that 150s in my hands seem super powerful compared to going against 150s, meaning in the past when I PvP'd, I think the reason why I felt everything was hard is because I had 130s and they had 150s. Now that I have 150s, I don't feel handicapped anymore. Having 3 150s, I feel like even the matches where they should be tough, I'm like, this ain't so bad. Like, my monsters aren't dying in one hit to a hardy. My monsters aren't this and that. My monsters are doing things that I before wouldn't have had the ability to do. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, just leave it in the comments, and I'll try better in the next video to stick to points and cover some points, because I'm sure I missed some. After I rewatch this one, I'll be like, man, I forgot to talk about a bunch of stuff, and I will share that in the future videos too. So yeah, thanks to everybody who's been watching the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.